have. So come on back down, take your seats. I'm going to start introducing our next panel so we can get going. And we really get to schmooze it up at 5 o'clock. So let's make our way. So the moderator, my job is to introduce the moderator of the next panel so that he can introduce his panel. The moderator of our third panel, which is called Higher Education and AmeriCorps Today, is Matt Farley. Matt is a highly accomplished education and civic engagement leader, serving as the Chief Strategy and Operations Officer for Campus Compact. As near as I can figure that, he provides the strategic vision and glue to further the mission and capacity of the Compact, working closely with his colleagues. He is also our resident New Englander, having spent a good part of his career in Massachusetts at Harvard and Stonehill College, and in Connecticut, where he is a commissioner with the Connecticut Commission on Community Service and a member of the Connecticut Civic Health Advisory Committee. Matt, I am excited to be here with you because you always are a wonderful presenter. So come on down.
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure, by the way, that I'm a wonderful presenter, but I do feel like this is like my Phil Donahue moment. I think I'm like at the state, for those that remember Phil Donahue, like my glass is now down, like let's get into this, really hard topics, but I'm grateful to be here for many reasons. But one of them is I was reflecting yesterday. I was flying down from Connecticut, and I was in the airport when we did a moment of silence yesterday for 9/11. I also don't recommend flying on 9/11, to be honest with you. It turned into a much more emotional piece, but for me, it grounded me in this idea of how important it is to have people that just run into service in really hard moments. And what are those calls to service that we all hear at different points in our careers, in our communities, and what's happening with us. And I really thought the juxtaposition of kind of my memories of those days, reaching out to friends and family that were directly affected, because we did have a lot, being in the New England area, in New York City specifically, and thinking about today and how important it is to kind of be builders, right? And that service is really such an important builder of communities and our democracy, and really is kind of one of those things that gives hope. And I think there's a lot of challenging moments right now. And I just want to acknowledge that I appreciate Amy and the team pulling this together and being in the room with all of you today because of that. So it's a personal thing for all of us, I know, but I'm grateful. I'm also grateful to be invited to be part of the program and to be up here with some outstanding colleagues, some that I've known for years, and some that I met about 35 seconds ago. So Kimora, welcome. No, and I do want to give a shout out to both Saul and Gayle, who you're going to hear from in a minute, because both have really had really profound impacts on my career as mentors and folks that have given me kind of guidance doing through that. So it's an honor to be here for those reasons. We're here focused on kind of what's happening now on the ground a little bit. We're not going to be able to capture all the things that are happening in higher education and national service because it's significant, right? It's still happening every day, and there's a lot that is advancing the work. But we know that higher education is still very much integrated into the life cycle of AmeriCorps and national service, from the recruitment side to the professional development of members, to members serving on campuses, to being grantees, to being evaluators and researchers, and of course then the application of the Ed Award. It is a full circle where higher education is woven into the experience of AmeriCorps in national service. We know that obviously a lot of students are serving as AmeriCorps members, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more together. And the importance, we've mentioned a couple of things already, high impact practice, that we know that it's really codified at this point, how it can be transformational for students, how it develops a deep care and ethic of concern for others, how it fosters learning and professional development and career growth. These are all things that we know that are impacting students. And really that students, when they are serving, or AmeriCorps members when they are serving through higher education institutions to build community partnerships, infrastructure, programs, and of course delivering critical services to those in needs, they're also building the capacity of our institutions to make a difference in the long run, well beyond whatever the AmeriCorps grant is. We also are serving more and more students on campus, and it's important to recognize that a lot of the services that AmeriCorps members are doing are helping with academic tutoring and mentoring food security and basic needs work, helping students to succeed throughout their 4 years to complete their degrees, move on in their careers, and economic mobility. These are all key factors that still drive the work of today, and I think we're gonna dig into a lot of those different topics. Our panel today represents a couple different organizations that are doing work in higher education specifically, and we have a recent alum, Zoe, who's working in the field and was an AmeriCorps member, and Kimora, who is a current student, and she'll tell you about her work with Jumpstart in a moment. As I mentioned, Saul and Gayle, with EngageNJ and EngageKY, and myself with the Campus Compact, between our 3 organizations, we did a little back of the envelope scratch notes, I think, from a data perspective. And it was really interesting to see currently, when you add up all of our AmeriCorps portfolios, that we engage about 500 plus members a year in our work in different ways, that we're working with 85 plus campuses, that our beneficiaries are about 800 folks engaged, or 8,000 rather, engaged, serving and benefiting about 200 plus extra partners. So I appreciate the fact that they're here to represent their programs and initiatives and kind of the scale of the conversations. And we know that that stands on and builds off the shoulders of all the work of the folks that are here today. So with that, I'm gonna ask my colleagues to introduce themselves and share basically kind of their connection points currently with the work that they're doing with AmeriCorps and in their day-to-day lives. And Kimora, I'm gonna have you go first.
Hello everyone, I'm Kimora. I'm a junior here at GW, and I serve with Jumpstart through AmeriCorps. I started my freshman year, and now I'm a junior, so this is gonna be my 3rd year serving with Jumpstart, and my 2nd year as a team leader. So I started serving with Jumpstart. Honestly, at the moment, I just wanted a job coming into school, but it turned out to be much more than that. So my major here is political science. I have a public policy focus, and I'm minoring in human services and social justice. And at first, I didn't really think the work at Jumpstart would correlate with my major so much, but it really means everything, I think. Not only do I have skills from being a team leader, like problem solving, communication with my peers, as well as communication with the youngins, because they're 3 to 4 years old that we serve with, but also it's helped me learn a lot about myself and the career path I want to follow. The thing about here being at GW is that everyone wants to go into politics. They want to serve their communities, but they don't know what it's like to directly serve their communities. And I feel like that's the most important part, because without seeing that direct what it's like, then how are you going to make change? And coming here, I knew I wanted to make change, but I didn't know what that looked like. And I think serving at Jumpstart has showed me, this is what I want to do. I want to help children. I want to get into education policy because it's really just, the work is inspiring. You know that they're inspiring you and you're inspiring them as well. So it's kind of a mutual relationship thing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe. I am a recent graduate in May, woohoo, of political science. Political science, and I minored in urban studies and data analytics. And my AmeriCorps service was focused through the program College for Social Innovation. I earned a full semester of credits in this past fall, working at a service internship at Pine Street Inn, which is New England's largest homelessness services provider. And I specifically focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion with their Strategic Initiatives Office and their Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion through my service. And I purposefully, sought out the College for Social Innovation because it is a program that, one, I was able to not fall behind, but I was also able to do a quarter service of AmeriCorps while being an undergraduate student. I had always had a vision for myself to do AmeriCorps Peace Corps after I graduated as Vista or anything like that, but I was able to do it as an undergraduate student and earn a full semester of credits while working in a social innovation nonprofit sector, which is something that I'm super passionate about. And very excited to talk to you about the projects that I worked on there today as well. And thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Good afternoon, I'm Gayle Hilleke. I'm the Executive Director of EngageKY. And being here with all of you just takes me back to 1997 when I moved to DC and started working at what was called the Corporation for National and Community Service. And I remember the first 2 weeks I was there, I thought, what did I get myself into? I couldn't believe it. And what I got myself into was this work and these wonderful people. And it was a world that was foreign to me, but I stayed until 2005, and then in 2006 I moved to Kentucky and started using AmeriCorps resources to connect higher ed and service. And so my first grant was a Learn and Serve grant, and we did student philanthropy. We had a partnership with Ohio and Michigan, and we're still doing student philanthropy. And then we went on, got Vista. We have a couple Vista grants. We have a College Coaches AmeriCorps State grant. We have a Volunteer Generation Fund grant, and we just got a foster grandparent grant. So we know that AmeriCorps resources can change the perspective of higher ed, can provide resources, can help students and community be more aware of how to build this democracy that we love. So I'm excited to be here with this panel to talk more about that, but that's kind of where we're at. Our EngageKY, started out as Kentucky Campus Compact. We've just rebranded, and we're a network of higher ed institutions in Kentucky that believe in community engagement for teaching and learning and changing communities. And our 3 priorities that we work on are college and career readiness and access, student success, and community impact. And we're glad to have AmeriCorps as a partner in that. I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Lovely to be here. Matt, what happened to you saying you were going to say hi at the beginning? Just hi.
Hi, everybody. Sorry. Welcome back.
And that was all you were going to give the man a microphone. Anyway, it's lovely to be here. It's lovely to celebrate the 30th anniversary of AmeriCorps. It's lovely to be with these panelists and our moderator. I'm Saul Peterson. I'm the Executive Director of EngageNJ, which is a statewide civic engagement coalition that works across New Jersey. We've had AmeriCorps programs since about 2016, serving over 8,000 students in New Jersey's case. And one of the things I'll be interested to talk about today is this idea of trying to avoid siloing career experiences and civic engagement experiences, and instead to try and talk about those things as both having a common purpose, and especially from an equity perspective, how do we make sure that that's something we advance over the next 30 years of AmeriCorps as a higher ed partnership.
Thank you. That was the quick intro, by the way. I just want to clarify Saul's critique in that moment. But no, we started talking a little bit here. You can see the theme around this idea of skill building and career integration and things like that. And obviously that's a theme of this panel that we want to dig into. I know at Campus Compact we currently have 3 AmeriCorps projects, a Vista, and then 2 state and national projects. And I would say that, reflecting back, because I've also realized that I was started my AmeriCorps journey not as a member, but as a supervisor, as a host site supervisor, and then a sponsor, et cetera, 25 years ago. And there was always just kind of this natural, informal process of where people would, find their way through this process. And they'd be like, oh, I'm really interested in this now. And their career path would unfold to them. And there were some natural parts of that process. But ultimately, with the kind of shift in higher education, the intentionality around how we need to integrate that work has changed. And so, whether in our Vista project, we're looking at more intentional learning outcomes, right, for members and career integrations, not just the life after AmeriCorps, what do you want to consider, but really, intentional from the beginning, or our College Renaissance Corps, which looks to bridge the gap between low-income families and communities, high-in-demand sectors, and community colleges that have training programs. But how do we get economic and social mobility happening as quickly as possible through that process? And those members that are serving, that are community college members, how quickly can they get then certifications and pre-apprenticeships that, you know, AmeriCorps service could be viewed in that way to help them get employment as well directly after. Or in our Campus Climate Action Corps, where we're looking at certifications as members are out there doing home inspections and kind of home energy work. How do they build that to help them understand what the field is to get certifications along the way? That's not work that we were doing, to be clear, a few years ago, and that shift is now happening very quickly. So recognizing the key skills, workplace certifications, et cetera, that all need to happen. So I guess, you know, to the panelists, I'm really curious from your perspectives, and Saul, I'm gonna start with you on this one, thinking about what are those kind of skills that are really prominent or potentially kind of achievable as part of your AmeriCorps service and the way that you're thinking about it in EngageNJ's work.
Sure, and I really welcome Kimora and Zoe's response to some of these things. We try to design experiences by listening to students, asking what's important, by listening to different sectors who are doing the employing, who are providing the careers and the economic futures for all of our college graduates, about what they're looking for in the workplace. And you find, and there must be echoes of this across the country and in the audience, you find that there's such an overlap between why people serve, what kind of experiences students are looking for, and what employers, whether it's in government, nonprofit, corporate, social innovation, you name it, what they're looking for in a nimble workforce, in creating a workplace that will allow you to find meaning, to thrive, to volunteer, to contribute to the very DNA of the company you work with. And so, if you think about it logically, you put students in a group and you provide them with an intractable challenge. So in all likelihood, in a year or a service learning course, you're not going to solve the problem, but you're going to be able to come to some level of consensus about what the problem is. You're going to be able to address what some of your goals are, and then evaluate your progress on those goals over time with the feedback of the community entity, and if it's the case of a faculty member. You're going to be communicating across incredible differences among your students in a group. You will have to learn how to fail and fail better, how to be honest about how you're failing, how to build consensus. I mean, you could just imagine the number of skills that I think are a million miles from the kind of traditional giving back and service that a lot of this type of work is rooted in, but that I run from, in at least when I'm allowed, so lock the doors back there, in New Jersey, is this idea of, no, we are building competencies, we're building skills, and we're building pathways for people to find incredibly meaningful and hopefully well-paid work to solve the world's issues and also find prosperity in the meantime.
Yeah, and I'll jump in on that as well. Through my experience in, serving in my quarter AmeriCorps service, the skills that I, gained are invaluable, I would say. They're, technical skills. I worked administratively, so Excel and, the usual. But truly, things like cultural competency and working with populations that, you're not used to working with. I've worked, at BHA over the summer, Boston Housing Authority, and worked administratively for, homeless services, providing it for that community, but genuinely working at the Pine Street Inn, I'm able to, work administratively, but still have the opportunity to be on the ground, go in the van, the outreach van, and, serve food and things of the sort. So skills that are technical, we truly learn how to fail and fail better, apply what we learn in the classroom tangibly to, a community. But truthfully, there are skills that are so invaluable by actually going into the community and learning from the community about what they need and helping that hone the skills that you already have to, cater to who you're serving and why you're serving and things of the sort like that. So that's what I'd say for the skills that I've learned as far as cultural competency as well. I'll add for College for Social Innovation, it's a program where anyone from any major can be involved in the program. So I'm a political science major, but there was marketing, there was business, but each student was able to be placed in a nonprofit organization that focused on social innovation. And a marketing student doesn't take the same classes as, myself as studying government and, policies and such. So the skills and, awareness that they gain by serving AmeriCorps is different than mine, but still invaluable, something you can't necessarily learn in the classroom, something you have to, immerse yourself in the community to learn and to grow in. So, yeah.
Yeah, just to go off of that, like Jumpstart has taught me many skills on paper, like you were saying, how to work through problem solving, how to, plan a meeting, an agenda, and talk to my peers as well as talk to younger kids as well. But I feel like the skills that you were saying that are invaluable are the ones that you learn not through just, not the ones on paper, but the ones to go when you're going out, when you're doing that service, building those connections. We do a lot of training at Jumpstart on DEI and cultural competency, but what does that actually look like in the classroom? And I feel like you need to build these connections with your community in order to carry out these initiatives that we talk about in our trainings and in classes and stuff like that. So definitely the direct service, is where you gain those skills the most.
Something you said, Zoe, reminds me of something we do in our programs. Is we have a survey for our AmeriCorps members to take based on the NACE competencies, and those are the ones about communications, creativity, digital literacy, all of those kind of things. And so they can rank themselves, and then through their service we can see how can we help them develop in any of those. So we look at that, and then we also help AmeriCorps members write their resume based on what they've been learning. So our college coaches, for instance, do a lot of technology with AmeriCorps Learns and GivePulse, and they also do a lot of presentations. They do public speaking, they do coaching. So helping them be able to talk about those skills that they're actually doing and practicing, and being able to talk about those is a good process. We're doing something similar to what Matt's doing. We're creating, Rhonda Taylor, I don't know if she's still here, but she's been talking with a lot of us about doing these certifications and things that Matt was talking about. We're going to start a professional certification for college and career readiness coaching, and that will be a certification through NKU. So that will be a nice professional thing for those members to do.
And just to connect this to some of the comments that were made earlier, I think part of bringing civic engagement into the center of the institution as not an add-on or an afterthought or a strategic pillar, but as a universal component of an institutional DNA, is to see that these experiences that students want to have are so much more about developing the kinds of skills that make them the ultimate recruits for your communities and for their work. And so for whom is there a loser in that predicament, in that situation? And so I think as college presidents, as institutional leaders, being able to see these types of experiences and what Kimora and Zoe are saying as actually key to their ability to get ahead and find their pathway, but also find their economic prosperity through developing these competencies is really important, and something I don't hear remotely enough on campuses.
Do you want to jump on that?
And just to say one last thing to jump off that, it's also very, I won't say, when we're younger, we say, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's rarely that, some parents, depending on who you are going to encourage, going into public service or going into something that's like, quote unquote, like not so broadcasted as like this high paying position or high paying job. However, being in a position like we are, gaining the skills that we have, it is like very, very, it's much more profitable, even, being exposed to leaders in nonprofits who are executives, who are building, change makers from the ground up. It's very inspiring. I can say from my experience, learning from, those who I learned from, and even encouraging me to do more and get my certifications. Like, because of my internship, my service internship, I was encouraged by my, supervisor to get my DEI certification and stuff like that. And that's something that I never thought of doing while in undergrad, but it was possible by those who, have done the service, done the work, and shown me that it was possible to be successful in it as well.
Gayle, do you want to share a little bit about how you're kind of sequencing things in your work to kind of do public service pathways?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So we have a series of levels of activity participants. So in our Volunteer Generation Fund grant, we have lots of student volunteers. And as volunteers, we expose them to AmeriCorps, and so then they could opt to be an AmeriCorps member. Within our AmeriCorps programs, there's an ambassador level where they can, and enlisted, it'll be a leader, where they can be a leader within their organization. And then in our organization, we have field support staff who are paid staff who can then help those AmeriCorps members and support them. And then we have program managers and program directors. So there's a path if somebody wants to stay in this field for a little while and to understand the process. I'm wondering, because Zoe talked about DEI, can I go there, or is that a different question?
Well, I'll just ask the question. So we were chatting during break and wanted to kind of dig in on this concept of really how is equity being centered in AmeriCorps work happening today, on college campuses, and what folks are doing and what opportunities there still are. We were, want to be conscious of the fact that, this is a white-dominated space, right, that we're in today, and that we are, things are improving in terms of a lot of progress in terms of recruitment of members or staff or things like that, but recognizing kind of how do we dismantle those systems that kind of self-perpetuate the challenges that we face. So that is the lobbed question statement, out there of how are you all advancing, kind of an equity agenda, and or what do you see as the opportunities to do so from your specific perspectives in the service at this stage?
So I can't wait to hear from Zoe because I don't have any answers. But we recognize it as an issue. We have about 20 people on our staff, and we have 2 men and 2 people of color. And so we are a predominantly white female organization. And how do we shift that? How do we intentionally make that more diverse? And how do we help our AmeriCorps cohorts be more diverse as well? So do we need to change who we're talking to, how we're talking, how we present ourselves, that kind of thing? So if you have some ideas, I'd love to hear it, Zoe.
Yeah, just a few. During my AmeriCorps service with Pine Street, specifically working the DEI, field with the DEI leaders, one of my major projects was a lot in between with the time I was there, but one of my major projects was creating a diverse leadership pipeline mentorship program. So basically, when we recognize whether it's nonprofits, whether it's corporate, mostly within an organization, the higher up you go, the less diverse it gets, which is an issue. And I, encourage whether it's higher education. I've, seen it in my school as well, focusing on anti-racist community engagement studies and things of the sort. It's very, very important to focus on who's in the room, because no matter who, let's say it's, predominantly white, female leadership, all with great intention. If you're serving, let's say, a community of, young Black men, and that's your focus, it's you get the picture, It's not that those who are, the why is wrong and like the purpose, but who's in the room and who that community sees is very, very important. So I'd say really in any organization, any institution, really focusing on, whether it's staffing, whether it's recruiting, creating a, mentorship program is great. Like, it's 10 out of 10, guys, I promise. For the staff, for those who are at lower levels, who are usually more diverse, to connect with higher levels, to get training, to get more opportunity, or even if it's more opportunity elsewhere, most of the time it keeps your staff there with, HIPOs and stuff like that. But creating a sense of belonging for those who are in your institutions or in your organizations is very, very important. And also, the community that you're serving will also see that as well, and it'll reflect in those efforts. So yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree. And just to tell a little story of some of my work at Jumpstart, my first year, within one of the first weeks going out and serving, I was working with a student, and she held her arm up to mine, and she looked at me and she said, "Look, we have the same skin color." And then she touched my hair and said, "Look, we have the same hair." And I kind of thought about my experience going through school. I went to all PWIs. I never really had anyone to look up to that looked like me. And I thought about how much that would mean if I did. And I carry that statement with me throughout all my work in school and with Jumpstart, because I think that's moment is the moment I realized this is what I want to do. This is the work I want to do, because these are the people's lives that you're changing. You're making a difference for them. And I know you brought up, being majority woman too, and I see that in the classroom. We only have like a small percentage of guys that serve at Jumpstart, but you can tell, for those little boys, they really connect with those guys. And you'll come and like, if they're not there that day, they'll be like, well, where are they? Like, why aren't they here? Are they sick? Or they at a doctor's appointment? And so those things matter. And I think it's important that we have to work on recruiting, because, that those relationships with those kids matter, because seeing someone that looks like them in that position, it makes them believe, I can do that. I can be like you. I can go to college. I can do what you're doing. And that's, I feel like, what's most important about this work.
One of the things both of you have said is about, kind of how we do our work, and that is one area that we've been working on. We use the co-creation methodology to plan our training and events, and we have members and staff and people who are being served all help us to plan, and with the idea that everybody has knowledges and experiences, and to hear all those voices and to have everybody's opinion in the room. And so we've done that, and it's been kind of magic. So we had one person who was from the LGBTQ community who was part of our co-creation team, and they had never been really part of a leadership position, and they said their opinions, and they gained confidence, and so they actually presented at one of our workshops, at one of the trainings, and was so excited about people responding to them and seeing how they might grow as a leader. And so this last training that we had, Riss was their name, and so they hosted a fireside chat with anybody that wanted to come and talk about how do you talk about people that have different gender roles and gender titles and things like that. I can't even talk about it because I'm not that good at it. But they had a spot where they felt comfortable. They had an environment where they felt comfortable that they could talk about it. And so I think, as we learn how to do the work a little differently too, bringing those voices in is important.
Okay.
Maybe you'll.
Okay, great. We're so subtle in our communication here at this panel. I'm going to open it up to questions in a moment. So think of the questions. I had a reflection. That I had dinner with Rhonda Fitzgerald last night, who works for Sustained Dialogue Institute, and we were talking about the work that they do in trying to, you can use the term bridging, pluralism, conflict resolution, et cetera. And what was a major theme of our conversation was just how neurodiversity right now with this group of students, how that is changing rapidly in a way that college universities themselves are not prepared for, and it plays into all this work, right, specifically. And so I want to throw that out there less as a question, but more as a, kind of like, she was astounded just coming back from a campus that will not be named, but just how challenging it was to work on that campus in ways that she has to flip all of her processes. and they're changing all the ways that they're working to be able to engage very differently, and had to go back to that campus to find out more about kind of, of the 50 students in the room, what were some of the percentages of learning disabilities, or a high percentage of autism, things like that just are changing the way that we need to be thinking about it. And I think we need to retool how all of us are thinking about our programming work, because that is certainly another form of diversity that's going to be real for us. And they need different supports than what we've historically done, to be clear. So I'll get off my soapbox a little bit, but now open up for questions if you have any. If not, I can keep asking questions. Up there, do we have a microphone? Or is this my moment? Is this my moment? I'm coming up. Oh my God, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Yes, thank you, I'll do it. I got it. Here we go. All right. I can check this box for my life, here we go.
Thank you so much. Hi, well, I'm really delighted to hear this panel because what I'm hearing is the future of service. One of the things that I think the value that has changed in the last 30 years is the value proposition around higher education. How much does it cost, and what are the young people getting? And that varies from institution to institution in terms of expectations. But I'm also just so delighted to hear the development of a diverse youth leadership for the leadership of tomorrow is a central kind of goal for all of these programs. So thank you very much for the work you're doing. Do you guys then go back and pitch these skills development to your admissions office, et cetera, across these institutions? Do you see that happening? Because it seems to me that more and more students, applicants, and parents are saying, what is my kid going to walk out with? Will my kid know how to use Excel? Well, actually, yes. Will my kid know how to interview people, run a meeting, put that on their resume? Well, yes. Are you putting the loop back into pitching for the university so that that value added is clearly seen by these institutions?
Thank you very much.
I will say that we are still at the early stages of making the argument for civic engagement institutionally at all. So getting admissions teams in the room has been difficult. And hopefully there's more success in other states. What we are doubling down on and trying to do, somewhat reflected in what Gayle said, is we hold opportunity fairs, we call them, where we annually bring in public servants, corporate executives, nonprofit leaders, and others whose very life stories probably mirror and reflect a lot of the students who are listening to them, who, though they are very successful up on the stage and they're very articulate and shiny, they didn't necessarily, they would say, start out that way. And so demystifying the idea that we all got here by some divine right, or that we started out here, and instead explaining how we all meandered. And when I say we all, I mean the people that we would invite into these opportunity fairs to speak to the students and tell their stories. They all have very meandering, sometimes incoherent stories, but that they persisted, and that they often had somebody who, even one person who believed in them, who made sure they didn't give up. And that's been our approach that I would welcome, some more national conversations around, is providing those aspirational lighthouse stories to ensure that young people, students who are thinking about whether to make $20 tomorrow in Amazon and quit community college, or persist and find some future of meaning that perhaps doesn't pay them today, is something that we owe it to the next generation and generations to come to wake up very early in the morning and work all day on.
Thank you for that question, Judy. I appreciate it because I wrote it down. We don't do it intentionally, but we do have VISTA members that serve in some admissions offices. So, the connection for me is to make sure they know so that that can be communicated and be part of the narrative. So we'll start doing that. Thank you. Appreciate it. I do think there's probably a couple campuses, as I was thinking, in Kentucky that probably do that pretty well, like Berea College, and so I'm also going to kind of check with them and see how they do that, but independently of what we're doing.
Does anything come to mind for you two when we were talking about that?
Not particularly. However, I will say that as far as if I'm understanding the question correctly, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as, I guess, best word I can use is advertising, let's say civic engagement, and making it a real staple of higher education is, one of the other panelists had mentioned through, let's say, classes, or through, I think maybe it was UPenn or something like that, through student experience. Truly, when I see students or when I hear, past AmeriCorps members come and speak and are in office, and I can ask them questions and I can say, what was this like genuinely? It gives me a more incentive, I guess, or more fire inside me to say, oh wow, you're like me, or you're a student, or you're someone who has had this experience and this is the value. So I really think having someone or people, I'll say multiple people, that can truly tell the experience is very, very valuable, I would say as well. Through my service learning, that's what I've learned, in whether doing it through classrooms as well as credit, because again, for College for Social Innovation, having it not separate from career and academics, it's all together is very, very valuable. Because if I were to lose credits for doing my service with AmeriCorps, I wouldn't have done it. But through College for Social Innovation, I was able to do school, do career development, and also AmeriCorps all at the same time as well. So, yeah.
So that makes me think about our Volunteer Generation Fund grant, EngageKY Plus, and we are helping to build the quantity and quality of volunteerism on college campuses across Kentucky, and we're partnering with GivePulse. So they are helping us think about how to collect data, and I think this is part of it and can be part of it, to talk about what are the skills that are learned so that we can wrap up that data, statewide and by institutions, so that we can get be able to talk about that in ways that people are really interested in.
I just want to give a quick appreciation for the quality of the people and the comments and wisdom of this panel. I hope you'll join me in thanking them for their work today. Congratulations. Also, a special recognition of Kimora, who's literally in between classes, is going to go back to class. This was at least a top 3 panel so far of the day. Good news. Congratulations. Amy, back to you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone. What a fabulous panel. Thank you, Kimora. We have a couple minutes before our next session. I would like to ask you to please come forward. Please, please, please change your seats, come forward, and as we welcome in the next session. So please come on down.